Hello, I'm Steve Maskery and I've got a fantastic system for cutting plywood and MDF panels to length accurately, precisely and consistently, time and time again. It's even easy and cheap. What more could you possibly want? Welcome to Workshop Essentials. This is the last film in what I like to call quite grandly my masterclass trilogy on using sheet goods. And the first one was how to make this useful knockdown table from a single sheet of ply. And the second one was how to make this setting gauge, which allows me to position my track so that all my lengths of timber come off exactly the same width time and time again. And if you've not seen them, I suggest you watch those first. Okay. Once we've got the pieces to width, then I need to cross-cut them to the right length. And this is particularly important if you're doing things like kitchen cabinets, something like that, where the tops and bottoms have to be exactly the same. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a box that's wonky and doesn't fit and everything. So here's my panel, and I want to cut it to a particular length. Okay. Now I use an MFT. And I made this MFT. I bought the jig, and you need a router and a guide bush and the jig, and you sort of move the jig up row by row. To be honest, it was a pain. It was very nicely made, don't get me wrong, but I didn't save very much money. It was a lot of work, and the end result is not actually as good as a properly CNC machined one. Yes, it's accurate, but some of these dogs are very, very tight. You've only got to have a tiny amount of dust between your collar and the jig, and it does create a lot of dust, and a tiny bit of dust will affect the fit of the dogs. So I still, even though I've had this a few years, I still occasionally find a hole that needs sanding out a little bit, and I have to use a pair of pliers to pull my dog out. So my advice is shell out the money and buy one. So there are two sets of dogs that come with it. There's a low set here and here, which the workpiece is registered against, and I would have them on here if I was cutting in this direction, and I would have them over here if I was pushing in that direction. So you're pushing against the dogs all the time. This is set up back to front for a reason. I'll show you in a minute. And the other thing which I recommend, it's not absolutely essential, but these little clips are excellent, actually. My friend Simon gave me these, and they're brilliant. There's just a little tiny plastic moulding with a bit of spring wire on it. That fits in the back groove and just clips over the dog, and that stops the track from moving. Now, the underside of these tracks do have non-skid strips on the bottom, but if your workpiece is quite narrow, if you're cutting a panel that's narrow like this, the amount of contact between the workpiece and the track is actually very small. So there isn't that much friction created because there's not a lot of contact. So particularly for narrow boards, these are very useful indeed. And they're not expensive, actually. I really do recommend them. And the other thing that I use to make my life easier is this. It's an adjustable stop. Two pieces of MDF, a stop on the end, and a couple of Bristol levers. And these slide over each other. One slides over the other nicely. And that's achieved with a diamond keyway down here. So it moves very nicely indeed like that without any play. And these Bristol levers are offset because if I had them side by side, they would foul each other. So they just hold the thing together like that. And on the underside, there's the two embedded nuts for the Bristol levers, and there's these two pegs, and they're very slightly tapered. They are exactly 96 millimeters apart because that's the size of these holes. It's part of the 32 millimeter system. And they go in any pair that you like. Push down, and then position your panel to a pencil line this time. We do need a pencil line. When you're confident you've got that in the right place, move the stop up to the end of the board and lock it off. And then you can cut your panel put the next one in, cut the panel, put the next one in, cut the panel, and they will all be exactly the same. It's really a very good, positive, precise system. You can get the same degree of accuracy that you would get in industry, really, with a great big Altendorf machine or something. Now, if you want to cut narrow strips rather than longer panels, then this is the way to do it. You turn the track round the other way. Like that. And in this case, I would be cutting in that direction, which is why I've got my dogs where they are. And you do then have to take into account the fact that the saw takes out a bit of wood here. The kerf of the blade is going to make a difference. So when you position your pencil mark, make sure that you allow for that kerf. And then, you can do it cut, move it up, cut, move it up, cut, move it up, and so on. A word of warning. Be careful where you put your dogs. Don't put your dog in this hole here. They would be in line with the saw. And if you're not careful, you go running along with this saw, not realising the dog is there, and you take a chunk out of it. Well, you would do if you were stupid. Now, I wouldn't do anything as stupid as that. So make sure that you don't either. Well, that's the end of my little trilogy about handling sheet materials in the home workshop. The knockdown table, the track setting gauge, and the adjustable length stop, they all work together to create a system which is accurate, precise, and consistent. And it's even easy and inexpensive. You don't need a posh track saw like that. You can buy a track saw from Aldi and Lidl these days. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, remember to like, subscribe and share. Put it on your Facebook page, put it on your forum. And until the next time, enjoy your workshop. Cheerio!